So I think I've invented a tie knot. I'm not sure, but as far as I know, I'm the original creator. So I'm going to call it the Weller knot. So here it is. So I'm going to teach you how to tie this knot. So I got the inspiration to tie this knot from a mix of a couple different knots. It's based off of the Onassis knot and the Pratt knot, and also kind of what people are calling the Merovingian wrap. So this is kind of a different take on those knots, so if you're familiar with how to tie those, this is going to be very similar. So here's kind of what it looks like underneath the collar. You can see it's maybe a little bit complicated, but it's not too bad. So here we go. First let's untie it. So here's our short end wrapped up underneath the collar. So we're going to pull that out. And here's where it's like the Onassis knot. Normally you get it tied, you let it hang down. That's your Onassis knot. So I'm basically looking at an Onassis knot right now, based off of a Pratt knot. So let's keep untying it a little bit and we'll get all the way to the beginning. So here's why it's like a Pratt knot. It starts backwards. It ends up normal, but it starts backwards. So if you're familiar with how to tie the Pratt, it's going to start out exactly the same. So here I've got the short end, a little bit above my belly button, a few inches. So to tie the Pratt, the way we start is we take the little end over the big end and go up and through. So what I like to do to kind of manage a little bit of the material, I like to bring the knot up at this stage. So I want to slide it up and get it up there. So here's where it's a little bit different. To get our little block, we have to make a loop. So we've got our seam side facing out. We're going to loop it over, but we're going to make sure that it stays facing out up here. So now we've got this nice little loop. So we're going to hold that loop in place. We're going to take the big end and we're going to go across on the front. We've crossed on the front, we've kept our loop in place. We're going to go around the back and up. We're going to go up and through. So here we go. So we've got our fat end. We've got our loop. So normally with the Onassis knot you would just let it hang. But in this case we're going to go through, we're going to go down and through this loop that we've made. When you go down and through this loop you want to be careful not to let this slide through. If you pull on this it's going to slide out. So you want to be careful. So you can see it's starting to slide right there, so I like to hold it. Kind of get the finagle the tie through there. So there we go, so now it's through. So here's what it looks like. So now it's really loose. So we're going to ultimately we're going to tighten this up a little bit. So what I like to do is kind of massage the tie around a little bit to get it to hang just the way I want it. So now here's our tag end. So if we pull this, this tightens this. So this end comes through, behind, around, and up and through. So if you need to tighten this a little bit more like I do, you're going to tighten this end, right? So it comes down through here. You want to hold this end. Hold this, slide the knot up a little bit. So now it's sitting high right where we want it, right in the opening of our collar. But we need to take care of this. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to tighten this by pulling. See how I pull that? It tightens up. So we're going to get it to about where you want it. I like to have it set where it's not too tight around the tie, not so tight that it pinches it, but loose enough that the tie can just hang wide, just like the Onassis knot. You can tighten it up, I guess, if you want to, personal preference, but I like to leave it on the wide side. So that's looking pretty good. So now we've got this tag end, so you don't want this thing just hanging around. So we're going to tuck it up underneath our collar. But I like to tuck it underneath the tie to keep it a little bit more secure. Now be careful when you do that, because when you are tucking that in, you might tighten this maybe more than you want. So be careful about that. So we're going to look at it. It's laying pretty nicely. I got that right where I want it. Let's pop the collar down. Now we've got the collar down, covering up our short end or our skinny end. Kind of massage it around a little bit. Get it how you like it. And there it is, the Weller knot.